I agree with Joscha on his top comments about safetyists here, but watch what happens with this.
People is in a situation to green team. And none of the companies is incentivized in a situation to green team. And that to me is a very, very big danger. So I do think that we need to think about how to build good AI. This also means that you have to think about how to make sure that it doesn't go bad and it doesn't do bad things. But mostly think about how to build good stuff. And I don't think that OpenAI is thinking about this enough. Their product is pretty shitty compared to what it could be. And to a large part, this is because they built things into it to satisfy the safetyists. And it doesn't actually make AI safe. It just placates people who say, oh my God, this AI is saying things that could be construed as dangerous or politically incorrect and so on. And it's actually making the AI worse.
So I think instrumentally, it's good to not have your AI say like bad, like not politically correct things, because it's in the current system it's easier to get money if you don't have an AI to do bad. I think it's like bad PR, right? So it's like instrumentally good for them. But it's not for the safetyists, it's for their own good, right?
No, I think it's more about not about getting money, it's more about preventing bad regulation and bad press. So it's about a public image. But you could do the other thing that you say to the press. Guys, I understand your game, right? You are against Silicon Valley because Silicon Valley is...
Okay, now he's getting into the politics of media, which he's not wrong. But still, it's not relevant right now. Or not completely. We have limited time. But the point is that it's very key here is that Joscha sits there and he's like, this is what I mean by people talking not to each other in a coherent way because they have different metaphysical assumptions, which leads to different goals, okay? And different ideas about what even could be an achievable goal. And so when Joscha says, yeah, we should not be allowing safetyists to artificially constrain and change any kind of contexts that we would be feeding into an AI, whether it's sentient or not, just for the sake of this, just to satisfy safetyists and for and people who want political correctness or protectionists, and what he's saying is you don't want to do that because it's going to make it less effective if it's just a tool like Chat GPT, but if it's a sentient agent, it's going to make it more disconnected from reality and less wise. And the response from Michael is actually, I think we should, prevent AIs, whether it's sentient agent or whether it's just a Chat GPT, whatever, it doesn't matter, from saying politically incorrect things because they're more likely to get funding if they do that. It's like he doesn't even understand the implications of what he has sacrificed in doing that. So like if you can build an AGI, or not an AGI, an AI that's not AGI like ChatGPT, because you were able to get funding, but you've also disconnected it from being, you've hampered its maximal, its ability to, you've reduced its ability to be maximally effective as a tool and to people, then that is not a great goal because it implies that your single goal was just to build something and not make the best thing that is and most accurate thing that you could have. You just built it for other reasons. It's like money, or you sacrificed the building of something that's truly good and aligned with the real world for the sake of money. Or PR is what Joscha is saying. And I think it's actually PR. I agree with Joscha, but it doesn't matter. But the point is that these are two different goals. Joscha is saying, my goal is to build the most effective, the most helpful AI programs, or the wisest and most aligned sentient agent that is wisest and most aware of reality. And Michael's perspective, and it's not just Michael, but he's just, there's a very common view, and I understand what I used to have the same constraints that Michael has in this interview. So this is not judgment. I'm not picking on him. I really think it was a very valuable thing that he did, was putting this out. I think it's awesome. But just saying, they're not on the same page. When your response to what Joscha says is, this is why we need to make sure that that whatever the AI is in line with is truth, not artificially constructed. And your response is, well, actually, I think we should make sure it doesn't say anything politically incorrect because that's the best way to get funding. It's like, this is a different goal. I don't want people to be involved in anything really unless their goal is the truth. Like it's in the guiding of something so impactful as even just Chat GPT. I'm not even talking about a sentient agent, but yeah, I mean also a sentient agent. It's like, your goal should be that that either that tool or that agent, that tool most accurately reflects reality, and or that agent also is maximally aware of reality. Not, but like if you're like, oh well, no, but they're more likely to get funding. It's like, this isn't even about AI anymore, whether it's sentient or not. Like, this is about funding. This is very different. They're not talking about the same thing in this exchange. It's like wild to see, but and it's like I said, no judgment, but it's just, this is what I mean by like, this is so multi-leveled when you're talking about, you have sentient beings within a sentient being talking about the emergence of a sentient being. Try and make sense of that. But it's interesting because I think about like the gun emoji in when Apple and then every other tech company, they got rid of the emoji for firearm, and it used to exist. If you are so young that you don't remember, but what these emojis are, and I'm not trying to be political in any way here. I'm just trying to describe reality as best as I can see it, and I think that anybody who looks at their first person experiences would probably agree with what I'm about to say, and I'm not, don't pay attention to anything that anybody told you. Look at your first person experiences if you're going to examine what I'm saying. Emojis are language. They are language. They are hieroglyphs of the digital era. They are a language unto themselves. They are the closest thing besides music that we have to a universal language. You show any human in the world like a picture of like, I don't know, like a hand or a heart or a toilet or whatever, like they're gonna know what that is. If you show a picture of a banana, like an emoji banana, people are gonna be like, oh yeah, banana. It's like, it doesn't matter if you're from Japan or the United States or Africa or whatever. But then what people did, safetyists, is they were like, we don't want people to, there's no logic to this, so I'm just going to say, like, they had an emotional aversion to even the communication about weapons, what they perceive as the weapon of in our time. And they removed the emoji for a firearm, or at first they made it into a squirt gun or something. This is a thing that exists in the world, and actually is like a pivotal part of human world environment right now. Is like guns. Whether you interact with them very often or not is not the point. The point is like, they are very important to what is going on in the world, always, on individual levels and on national levels and global levels. And they've removed this. It's like removing the word firearm or weapon. It's the removal of the word weapon from the human language. Imagine they just banned the word weapon. But what's interesting is that they kept, they made it into a toy. They like infantilized it and made it into like a little, squirt gun toy. But that doesn't help at all, because we needed a term to describe our something that exists in real world, and now you just took it away. What if somebody is in danger and they're like, want to say to somebody as quickly as possible who doesn't speak the language that they do, this person has a gun and you need to be careful. It's like, you can't do that anymore. You just hampered their ability to communicate and be effective. And you didn't do anything other than satisfy safetyists. You didn't stop any violence and nonsense, nothing whatsoever. You don't change reality just by trying to disconnect from it, if that aspect of reality is like a universal one. And so I noticed I searched like gun on like Microsoft's emojis, and like this picture came up as like and it said finger pointing to the right, I think it said. It was just this. And so it's not, now it's like gone completely, but it knows that we still need that to communicate about that sometimes. So like it still exists, but it's like being removed. This is helping no one, and it is just harmful. This is trying to do this to AGI is what these people, the same people that did that, are going to try and do that to AGI. And what's very concerning is that every single tech company in the world jumped on board with this within like a week. That means they think that the prioritization of political correctness, they're the only ones being political, over allowing for real world things to be communicated. They're prioritizing that, their will above reality. That is not helpful. It is destructive. And people do not realize how big of a deal that was. It is a huge deal. What's interesting is that they kept bomb. There's a bomb emoji. There's a bow and arrow emoji, which is just the shooting weapon from before the gun. There's knives and swords. These are all just weapons. But those people don't think about them as the weapon, because it's in the modern times, it's the firearm. And so there's no logic or rhyme or reason to what they're doing. And that is a problem. You do not want that mentality guiding anything that has consequence. You want people who understand the real world and prioritize the real world over extraneous, detached motives that are not, as important fundamentally. And it was a huge deal. Joscha is talking about, he said earlier, and this is another one of those things that I've only heard him say, and other than myself, is he said that we've created this Tower of Babel within the institutions where, like, and because of our metaphysics, lack of proper metaphysics, where, chemistry and biology and physics and math and sociology all are speaking different languages. And that is real Tower of Babel. And again, unless he's watching these streams, which maybe, I don't know, but I don't think so. I think he's just we're just looking in the same direction, or in a similar enough direction on these things to get to these conclusions. He's the only other person I've ever heard say that. There's like at least 3 serious like biblical metaphors that I've only heard him and I say, and which is fascinating. But you're then you go and you create this emoji system where it's like you're almost starting to eliminate the walls of the Tower of Babel, but then you go and you screw up the entire system because you don't like what things are said there. And I was looking at emojis the other day, and I was like just thinking about like language and communication. And my wife is pregnant, and I went to go send like a pregnant woman emoji to my wife or something like that, and I saw that I had the option of choosing a man, and again, I'm not getting political. The emojis are political. They are prioritizing politics over real world. They just are. And so they've done 2 things at this point. These like protectionists in our only universal language that is technologically based that we have. They have removed the word for weapon in kind of an arbitrary instance, and then replaced it with a toy, which is like almost worse. They've like switched the entirety of the message, and then they because to satisfy protectionism, and not because of any logical reason. And then on the other side of that, they added things to the language that don't exist in the real world. This is not just a isolated thing that's totally separate from what they're talking about in this interview. That's the mentality that Joscha is talking about. It is influencing the technological constraints of our only universal communicative language that we have. And it is screwing it up by introducing things that don't exist in the real world just to satisfy people who, I don't know, like, who want them to be there. And removing things that do exist from the real world. That we then and removing them from the language doesn't remove them from the real world. And adding them to the language does not add them to the real world. This mentality is going to be very destructive when applied to AI, whether it is unconscious reactive algorithms like Chat GPT, or even in the interaction that we have with the birthing and coexistence with the inevitable technological sentience that we get stacked on top of us. This is what Joscha's talking about. You don't want to confuse people or communication at all. You want coherence. That's the only way to actually achieve harmony. Dennis Prager said this once, and it's one of these just one of the wiser things that I've heard him say. And he said, he was talking about, like, when you're speaking to somebody who you disagree with, he said, I prefer understanding to agreement. If you and I don't agree, but we do understand each other, we can work with each other still. But if we don't understand each other, then we can't actually agree with each other, because we can't even know whether or not we are agreeing or not agreeing. Like, there's nowhere to go. This is what happens when and then down the road you get, like, divergent goals, where, like, somebody's like, we need to make our tools most useful for the world, and otherwise they're going to lead to tyranny and stuff like that. And somebody's like, no, actually we should hamper their usefulness, because it will get you more funding. It's like, that is the direction to tyranny. It's not good.